30, a mistrial declared in the Christopher Taylor murder trial.
And joining us for analysis are attorneys Jorge, Vela, and Elizabeth Resendez. Thank you both for being here. Anyone who has been following this trial knows it was sort of building toward a mistrial, but I want to ask you both, and Elizabeth, I'll start with you. Were you surprised at today's ultimate outcome?
You know, Tony, I wasn't completely surprised after we saw the length of deliberations. I was thinking that it was going to end up this way. Originally, when defense closed and we got to actually hear closing statements, I did feel that I thought that there would be a verdict. I really did. And at this point, after seeing the deliberation, I did understand that it was going to end up being a mistrial, though right when the case closed and the jury had it, I thought for sure there would be a verdict in this case.
And Jorge, we talked very early on, and even going into the trial, there was this idea that this was going to be a tough case and maybe a candidate for a mistrial. Were you surprised at all today that the judge called it?
No surprise from me, Tony. I think that the jury's verdict is a reflection of a divided community when it comes to the issue of police's use of force. I think that this is a very divisive issue. It's an issue where both sides have very strong feelings when it comes to the degree to which a police officer can use force in order to stop a threat. And I think because people have such strongly held beliefs, it's going to be difficult for either the prosecution or the defense to convince jurors to come to their sides if they've already come into the trial with preconceived notions, with preconceived beliefs as to the ultimate outcome of this case. And so to me, it was no surprise because of how divisive this issue was.
Now, Jorge and Elizabeth, we heard Judge Dana Blasey announce that the jury came back with 3 notes, right? And so today's note is, what are some of the factors the judge has to consider when saying, okay, that's it, they cannot decide? Why was it 3 and not the second note, not the first note?
Yeah, so it's all very fact-specific depending on the case. I think that the court has a lot of discretion when it comes to the time that she's going to allow the jury to deliberate.
Oh.
When it comes to a case of this importance, of this amount of attention, of this amount of resources invested, I think that the court has more of a push to allow the jurors to deliberate further. Because ultimately, when we think about all the resources that were put into this trial, both on the defense side and the prosecution side, it is just deflating to think about having to do this all over again for both sides. And so I think that in this particular case, the judge wanted to push the jurors to make a decision. But, it all depends on what those jurors' notes actually said. If they were firm in their belief that they were deadlocked, I don't think that the court has any other option but to declare a mistrial.
Elizabeth, I want to ask you, if you are Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza, what do you do? Do you take this case back to trial, or do you try to resolve it in some other way?
I don't think it would be a bad idea to try to resolve it, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that Christopher Taylor is going to be taking anything. So, and frankly, I think they have no choice but to kind of go forward and continue with, another trial. I just don't see him just giving up. If they truly believed in this case, how can they just give up at this point, right? They are going to have to keep pushing forward, especially with the amount of press that's got, especially with kind of the entire view the DA's office has kind of had of APD generally, the way they've been portraying police officers, and this was the main case they put all of their time and money, behind. I don't see how they can just pull back. I think they're going to have to push forward. I think they're going to have to go for another trial. Now, do I think it'd be smart to add in manslaughter? I do at this point. I think it was not very palatable for the jurors sitting there to actually consider murder in this case. I think had it been manslaughter, we might actually have a verdict.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Jorge, for your expertise as usual, and thank you for joining us
We
today.
appreciate your insight. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.